In a quiet corner of the ancient city of Kapilavastu, a young man named Siddhartha Gautama sat beneath a Bodhi tree, deep in contemplation. He had renounced his princely life and set out on a spiritual quest, determined to find the root cause of human suffering and the path to liberation. One day, as Siddhartha was walking through the streets, he encountered a fellow monk who seemed weighed down by a heavy burden. The monk's face was etched with sadness, and his steps were slow and heavy. Siddhartha approached him with compassion and asked, "My friend, what troubles you so?" The monk looked up, his eyes brimming with tears. "Oh, Siddhartha, I am consumed by a deep melancholy that refuses to lift. I have tried to meditate, to chant, to serve others, but nothing seems to alleviate this constant ache in my heart. I feel as if I am drowning in a sea of despair, and I don't know how to swim to the surface." Siddhartha listened intently, his heart going out to the suffering monk. He knew that depression was a common affliction among those who had renounced the world and dedicated themselves to the spiritual path. The mind, when not occupied with the distractions of daily life, could turn inward and become consumed by negative thoughts and emotions. "My friend," Siddhartha said gently, "I understand your pain. Depression is a heavy burden to bear, but there is a way to lighten the load. Let us sit together and explore the teachings of the Buddha, for they hold the key to overcoming this darkness." The monk nodded, grateful for Siddhartha's compassion and wisdom. They found a quiet spot under a tree and sat cross-legged, facing each other. The Four Noble Truths. Siddhartha began by explaining the Four Noble Truths, the foundation of Buddhist teachings. The first truth, he said, is that life is filled with suffering. Birth, aging, illness, and death are inevitable, and even when we are not experiencing these obvious forms of suffering, we are still subject to the dissatisfaction that comes with impermanence and change. The monk nodded, recognizing the truth in Siddhartha's words. He had experienced his fair share of suffering, both in his life before becoming a monk and in his spiritual practice. The second truth, Siddhartha continued, is that the cause of suffering is craving and aversion. We cling to pleasure and try to avoid pain, but this only leads to more suffering. When we don't get what we want or lose what we have, we experience disappointment, anger, and despair. The monk thought about his own depression and how it was often triggered by his desire for happiness and his aversion to sadness. He realized that his attachment to a certain emotional state was the root cause of his suffering. The third truth, Siddhartha said, is that it is possible to end suffering. If we can let go of our craving and aversion, we can find peace and contentment. This is the path of the Buddha, the one who has awakened to the true nature of reality. The monk felt a glimmer of hope at these words. If the Buddha had found a way to end suffering, then perhaps there was hope for him as well. The fourth truth, Siddhartha concluded, is the Eightfold Path, the way to end suffering. It consists of right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. The Eightfold Path. Siddhartha then went on to explain each aspect of the Eightfold Path in detail, showing how it could be applied to overcoming depression. Right view, he said, is the understanding of the Four Noble Truths. It means seeing things as they truly are, without the distortions of our own desires and aversions. The monk realized that his depression had been fueled by his own misunderstandings about the nature of reality. He had believed that happiness was something that could be attained and held on to forever, and that sadness was something to be avoided at all costs. Right intention, Siddhartha continued, is the commitment to letting go of craving and aversion. It means cultivating a mind of compassion and loving kindness, not just towards others, but towards ourselves as well. The monk recognized that his depression had been exacerbated by his own self-criticism and lack of self-compassion. He had been harsh and judgmental towards himself. berating himself for his perceived failures and shortcomings. Right speech, Siddhartha said, is speaking truthfully and kindly. It means refraining from lying, gossiping, and harsh speech, and instead using our words to uplift and encourage others. The monk realized that he had often been his own worst enemy, engaging in negative self-talk and rumination. He had been telling himself that he was a failure, that he would never be happy, and that his depression was a permanent part of who he was. Right action, Siddhartha explained, is behaving ethically and compassionately. It means refraining from harming others or ourselves and instead engaging in actions that promote the well-being of all beings. The monk recognized that his depression had sometimes led him to engage in harmful behaviors, such as isolating himself from others or neglecting his spiritual practice. He realized that by taking positive action, such as reaching out to others for support or engaging in acts of service, he could begin to break the cycle of depression. Right livelihood, Siddhartha said, is earning a living in a way that does not cause harm to others or ourselves. It means choosing a profession that is in alignment with our values and that contributes to the greater good. The monk realized that his work as a monk was a form of right livelihood, as it allowed him to dedicate his life to the service of others and the pursuit of spiritual growth. However, he also recognized that even within the context of his spiritual practice, he could engage in activities that were not in alignment with the Eightfold Path, such as ruminating on his depression or neglecting his responsibilities. Right effort, Siddhartha continued, is the energy and determination to cultivate positive qualities and let go of negative ones. It means making a consistent effort to practice mindfulness, compassion, and equanimity, even when it is difficult. The monk recognized that overcoming depression would require sustained effort and commitment. He realized that he would need to be patient and kind with himself, acknowledging that progress would not happen overnight. He also recognized the importance of seeking support from others, such as fellow monks or a teacher, to help him stay motivated and on track. Right mindfulness, Siddhartha explained, is the ability to be fully present and aware in the moment. It means paying attention to our thoughts, feelings, and sensations without judgment or attachment, and using this awareness to guide our actions. The monk realized that his depression had often been fueled by rumination about the past or anxiety about the future. He recognized that by cultivating mindfulness, he could learn to stay grounded in the present moment and respond to his experiences with greater clarity and wisdom. Right concentration, Siddhartha said, is the ability to focus the mind on a single object or meditation practice. It means developing a calm and stable mind that is able to withstand the ups and downs of life with equanimity. The monk recognized that his meditation practice had sometimes been inconsistent or unfocused. He realized that by committing to a regular practice of concentration meditation, such as following the breath or visualizing a calming image, he could develop the mental stability and clarity needed to overcome his depression. As Siddhartha finished explaining the Eightfold Path, the monk felt a sense of relief and inspiration. He realized that the Buddha's teachings offered a comprehensive and practical approach to overcoming depression, one that was grounded in the understanding of the true nature of reality and the cultivation of positive qualities such as mindfulness, compassion, and equanimity. The monk thanked Siddhartha for his wisdom and guidance and set out on his own healing journey. He began by cultivating right view, recognizing the impermanence of all phenomena and the inevitability of change. He let go of his attachment to happiness and his aversion to sadness, and instead embraced the full range of human experience with an attitude of acceptance and equanimity. He also committed to right intention, cultivating a mind of compassion and loving kindness towards himself and others. He recognized that depression was a common human experience, and that by extending kindness and understanding to himself, he could begin to heal and grow. As he continued on his path, the monk engaged in right speech, refraining from negative self-talk and instead using his words to uplift and encourage himself. He also took right action, reaching out to others for support and engaging in acts of service that brought him a sense of meaning and purpose. In his work as a monk, the monk practiced right livelihood, dedicating himself to the service of others and the pursuit of spiritual growth. He also made a commitment to right effort, consistently practicing mindfulness, compassion, and equanimity, even when it was difficult. He recognized that his depression was not a permanent part of who he was, but rather a temporary state that would come and go like the weather.